Hey y'all, welcome back. I haven't shown my face on my channel in a while because I was getting used to doing editing with like still shots, and I actually kind of like that a little more so than trying to get myself together and position a ring cam. As you can see, compared to some of my other videos when I was on here last, it's a little different background. I'm in my living room and we're just finagling, trying something out here. I know it may not look the best, but anyway, as you've seen on my short, my mother and I went to see Michael today. I actually requested off work today just so I could, because I said I want to see it the day it comes out, because I know the internet is the biggest spoiler of all time, social media. And I said I want to see it in the morning because, I get off at night. I could have got off work and saw it at 9 o'clock, but I was like, I'm not trying to fool with the mall at 9 o'clock. No. So I will say this. If you are expecting this movie to be about his birth all the way up to his death, that's not the case. I feel like this movie centered more around Michael coming into his own as an artist and an individual, separate from his father's guidance slash dominance. Because so a lot of us that are like my age and older, because when the American Dream, the Jackson 5 miniseries came out, that was in 92. I was 5 years old. So, like I said, people my age and older probably remember that. That's a staple. That is a classic. That's like the Temptations biopic. In the black community, that's a classic, right? So we all remember Joseph as being just, people when that came out, people were making jokes about, Joseph Jackson beating people up and I'm gonna beat you like Mike's daddy and stuff like that. People try to find a humor in that kind of thing. So yes, he was depicted in this like that as well, just very stern. They show, like I said, the movie to me focused more so on Michael and his relationship with his father and his self, right? Coleman Domingo, and forgive me if I say that name vice versa, because I tend to mess his name up. I think it's Coleman Domingo. First of all, he did great. I actually love his acting. Got a little crush on Coleman. I know he played for the other team and everything, but that is a fine man. But he totally he did great with Joe, being Joe. You know what I mean? When I first saw a still shot of him playing Joe, like I think last year, I was like, this is gonna be like, why they got him looking like that? Because it looked like they like added some to, some makeup or something to his face to make him like Joe. But you forget about that and you definitely see Joe. Now, a lot of people look at him as being just totally abusive. I think there's layers to Joseph Jackson. I think the layers are, you got to remember, he was born in 1928, black man, 1928, Arkansas. I looked that up. I guess they moved, during the Great Migration. A lot of Black Americans were leaving the South, trying to get away from racism, Jim Crow, looking for better jobs. So a lot of people from up South moved up north, or to the Midwest and up north, Midwest. So I feel like back then, I just think that's how a lot of people were, parents were. Because it's like, you're black, you're coming up in this world, nothing's going to be handed to you. So I feel like I do feel like his heart was in the right place, but he went about it, I guess, the way he knew how to go about it. But the thing with Michael is, Michael was a more sensitive child. That's why I always say, people forget that kids are people. They're not clay that you mold into what you like. They are people. They have personalities. And I feel like the type of parenting that Joseph was doing was way too much for Michael because he was very, very sensitive. And I think that's what caused, well, I'd like to say I know that's what caused the strain in their relationship was that he was so overbearing and Michael didn't have to have that type of parenting. You know what I'm saying? Um, Miss Catherine, played by Nia Long. Nia Long is still so very beautiful, and she captured Catherine's not laid backness because that's I don't think that was it. She captured her sensitivity, her softness. You know, a lot of people will probably say, well, Catherine didn't do nothing to protect them boys. She just let Joe beat them. You're living in a different time. You're talking about 40, 50, when the Jacksons were born in the 50s. Most of them were born, I think they were all born in the 50s. Okay. You're talking about a time where women just really couldn't voice their opinions that much. I don't believe she worked. So she kind of just had to deal with it because in the movie, there was a scene where, I can include spoilers in this because we pretty much know the story. But, Mike was burned really badly. I didn't know it was that severe until I saw the movie doing a Pepsi commercial. And while he was in the hospital, his mother was like, I'm sorry that I didn't protect you. And Mike was like, don't apologize because nobody was stopping Joseph. You know what I'm saying? I forgot. I think I saw a glimpse, but Lorenz Tate plays Gary Barry Gordy in this. When I was in high school, I had such a crush on Lorenz Tate. He is still just a beautiful man, but I liked him in this. The guy that played Quincy Jones did well. The casting was spot on. When I got home and I was online and I was looking at like the side by side of the real people and the characters, they did a great job with that. Music was phenomenal. I'm trying to get through every character. I wanted to kind of keep Jaafar Jackson last. Just going through every character. They didn't spend a whole lot of time on the brothers, but we got most of their story on the first biopic, which was about the group, was about the Jackson family, I should say. So we saw more of what was going on with Jermaine and Joseph not wanting. I forgot which one it was. Was it Jermaine to marry somebody, Hazel, somebody? So they didn't cover the brothers as intimately too much. We pretty much saw them when they were practicing as children. We saw them when they were on stage together. We saw them when they were all like living in the house because Mike stayed in the house. Like he didn't just turn 18 and leave because he had the money, but I don't know, maybe he felt a need to stay there with his mother. Maybe he felt a need to, or he had a hard time standing up to Joseph. Because when you're a sensitive person, someone that's kind of have a bullying type personality is scary. For those of us that got bullied in school, that's a horrible feeling when you're afraid of somebody. It's terrible. And so throughout the movie, when it came to having to say something to his father, he usually had it done through different people. Like he had somebody tell his father he wanted to do a solo album. He had somebody fire his father when he was trying to get away. And he told his father in his own way, look, this is the farewell tour of me and my brothers. He's doing his own thing. Now, Jaafar Jackson. I feel like Mike would have been honored. I think he would have been proud of his nephew. His nephew did his thing. He did his homework. He really embodied Michael. His voice off rip was just like his. The moves, Mike's dance moves aren't super easy to do. So I'm pretty sure he had tons and tons of practice footage to watch. Um, I saw a clip where he was doing some workouts. Like, Mike was a megastar. Like, seriously. And I don't think we'll ever see anyone like him. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's great for him to be cemented as the king of pop. Now, there was something in this that got on my nerves, but I had to say, you know what? I think it was for safety reasons. That computer animated ass Bubbles. You know, I don't like computer animated stuff in movies sometimes, especially a movie like this where it's not a special effect movie. It's not like it's a superhero movie where you expect that, or a horror movie where you not may necessarily expect it, but you're like, okay, it's a horror movie, you know. How else are they going to show somebody with a head popping out their back or something, right? It's like a computer animated chimp, but then I was like, you know what? Chimps can be very violent, and there are people walking around with half their face ripped off because of chimpanzee attacks. So that may have been for safety reasons that they didn't get an actual chimp. Plus, I'm thinking you would have to like train it and stuff, and that wasn't the focus of the movie Bubble. So I was like, okay, I can get behind the computer animated monkey or chimpanzee for now. I get it. You know what I'm saying? We don't want people getting their face scratched off, torn off. We don't want people getting killed, putting money and resources into training this animal for him to respond to Jaafar. So I had to let up on that. But when they first saw it, I was like, no, they didn't with the CGI monkey. Okay. So by now, if you've been following online, like I said, it doesn't cover from birth to death. I feel like it really just covers, like I said again, Michael Jackson coming into his own as a person, individual. There's a word I'm looking for, but I can't think of it. I'm gonna just say individual or separate from under his father's, you know what I'm saying, dominance. We see a lot of the fact that he didn't have friends. You know, he was really into Peter Pan, which that was a real thing with Michael because Peter Pan was like, you know, the boy that, if I remember the Neverland Peter Pan story correctly, he was a boy that didn't grow up or something, and Neverland. And I think Michael, it's just my opinion, but I think Michael had kind of like a Arrested Development thing. I think he never got a chance to do kid, like just be kiddie, do kid stuff. You've been performing since you were 5 in bars and clubs and on TV, and your daddy's waking you up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, you just finished a gig. You got to go home and still practice, then turn around and go to school. So I feel like that's what happened with Michael. Some would argue, well, what about the other kids? They didn't turn out like, well, like I said, Michael was very sensitive. He was different. He really was different. And I feel like that's where a lot of that, you know, his childlike manner came from. And so now I'm going to bring to a lot of people are giving it low reviews for the simple fact that they did not include the child molestation allegations in this. And my argument is just like a lot of people's. It ends in 1988, like right after Bad. I want to say Bad was the last song Jaafar performed in the movie, and then it went off, right? So that was 5 years before the allegations. And I'm only going to stay on that briefly, but the man was acquitted, not found guilty. And I was actually watching a documentary that I didn't finish because it was just hurtful to watch, where they were talking about that first allegation where the father was plotting on having his son tell this story that Mike did something to him, try to get his money, because Mike was this enigma in a way because he was different. Some may call him weird, extremely talented, but you never heard about him, you know, with like groupies or something. You never saw him out with any women. You didn't see him out with any men romantically. People didn't know where he was in that aspect of like relationships. And like I said, he has this soft voice. He has all these exotic animals. So I think he was the perfect target for people. If you're kind of weird, different from the norm, you are a target for that kind of stuff. And you got some money too. But anyway, I had actually geared myself up when I was going to see this movie. I was gearing myself, not gearing, preparing myself to actually see the scene where he was sick and he passed. That's what I was like, man, that part's gonna be sad. I do appreciate how they alluded to things like he died from an overdose, if I'm not mistaken, or something was wrong with the medication. But um, when he backtracked to when he got burned at the Pepsi commercial, that severe third-degree burn, nerve damage and everything. And the doctor was like, you're going to have to probably wear a hairpiece and everything like that. And they mentioned the pills. I think that's probably what started his, I don't know if he was addicted to them or not, but, I think that's what started his route to being on pain meds. Because I didn't know it was that bad. Like when I heard about it, I've grown up hearing about he burned himself, but I thought it was more so like his hair caught on fire and it singed his scalp. I didn't know it was his scalp was like burned to that extent, and another thing that they alluded to was it wasn't really illusion, but alluding, but they Mike was a big humanitarian, and that every dime of this 7-figure something was going on. He was still in the hospital. He was talking to this guy that manager, whoever he was, I forgot his name, but he said, I want every dime given to this hospital, because he was looking at all the children who had burns all over their body, second, third-degree burns that never would go away. And so he gave a lot, man. Michael was too good for this world. I really want to say that. I wish he was here, man. It would be so nice to see Michael. Michael would be close to 70. I think he was born 58, 50. I know he's like 2 or 3 years older than my mom. My mom was born in 60 and she's 66, so he would have been about 68, 69. I would love to see the older Michael. I would love to see how he would be on social media. Would he be on TikTok? Would he be on Instagram? How would he feel about people doing his dance moves and this movie? Would we have seen this exact movie if Mike was still alive? We'll never know, but it would be so wonderful to know how he would be in 2026. And I loved seeing his son. I think Prince is the one. He was actually involved in the movie. I think he was an executive producer. And his brothers and sisters, Jaafar played him. I think I think people were involved except for Janet. For whatever reasons, Janet did not want to get involved. I heard she didn't really care for the movie, but I honestly, I can understand Janet's point, even though I love the movie. But that was her brother. She knew him on a personal level. She may have had conversations with him that he didn't have with anyone else. So her expectations were going to be high. I think she was closer to him than his other siblings because she kind of has that quiet, shy thing going on like him. So I think and her being the little sister, I think they had a special bond. And I could totally understand why Janet didn't want to be involved, because I don't even think they mentioned her name. They mentioned LaToya. They mentioned all the brothers. They didn't mention Reby, but they mentioned LaToya a lot. Like LaToya was the main sister in the movie, but they didn't mention Janet at all. I guess she made it clear, look, don't even put me in that. But I want to just shout out to everyone involved in the movie. It costs about $285 to go to the movies now. So I only go like once a year. Okay. And then when I go, I get my popcorn, I get my drink, my little snack, because I'm only gonna come once a year because it costs so much. Okay, like I said, I was thinking about getting a subscription to Regal, but I don't know. I'm already subscribed to all these streaming services. They really want to make us just rent stuff and subscribe to stuff and never own stuff. But that's gonna be another video. I'm about to get off of here. Let me know what you think about the movie. Like I said, you can't really spoil this too much because we know the story for the most part. But for those of you that saw the movie, let's have a discussion down in the comments. Um, I'm gonna say this though, and I'm not usually into blocking's not the word, but censoring what people say. But if you come on here talking about he a pedophile, he a rapist and stuff like that, I'm just gonna block you. We're talking about the movie and what was in the movie. Period. Don't come over here with that. Shout out to my 205 subscribers. I'm finally getting up there, y'all. Shout out to the rest of you as well who are not subscribed. But you know you can by hitting that button for me. Peace and blessings to every last one of you watching. Until next time.